But what I was reflecting on are just some of the early days when I started weight training, and the fact that I wasn't able to look anybody in the eye, any of the other gym goers, any of the workers. It was just head down. I brought like a Toshiba satellite laptop, and I was doing these P90X workouts in the gym. I was totally lost, totally clueless, and I hope my content just gives you hope, gives you direction to everything that you put into this journey. Is not about getting 16-inch biceps. It's about the character that you cultivate and the experience that ultimately affords you. And I hope you just stay on the straight and narrow. Because as a message to my younger 15, 20-year-old self, Jason Jr., I would just say that the juice is worth the squeeze, man. Like, if you're going through hell, keep on going. Don't slow down. If you're scared, don't show it. You got this.
I hope you appreciated that high vibe riff. So that was just a little rant that I had went on during an arm day that I had performed a few days ago. And I want to put my headphones back on, and I actually want to watch the recap of this workout with you so that I can narrate it and help cross the T's and dot the I's for you, really pull back the curtain and show you behind the scenes and show you the rationale, the why behind each of these exercises. You know, why am I performing a certain exercise over another with a certain tempo for this many reps and not that many, and for how many sets, just to give you an idea of how to actually construct an optimized hypertrophy routine for yourself. So I'm going to put these back on and we'll watch this together. You can see here, I'm just putting on my earplugs, my 33 noise reduction rating Mox earplugs, the same ones that I use to sleep more effectively, by the way. So what I'm doing here actually, just real quick, is I'm removing my sleep tracking, my Ring-Con ring, just a little bit more comfortable to not have that on in terms of gripping the bar more effectively.
Just getting my first exercise pairing ready to rock and roll. My first superset, I'm going to be doing unilateral preacher curls, and I'm going to be supersetting those with an overhead triceps extension. I just put in my Mox 33 NRR noise reduction rating earplugs, and I'm just getting ready to rock and roll now.
Yeah, you can probably appreciate just how loud the music is, and honestly, it's very hit or miss there. So I see exercising, lifting, training as a very meditative experience, and I like to get very present to the moment. And a lot of that is contingent on just drowning out peripheral noises to the greatest extent possible. So what you're going to be able to see here is I'm just getting ready for my first set of unilateral preacher curls. And what I recommend doing is starting with your weaker side, right? You're going to see here I'm actually starting with my left arm. And what I'm going to be doing is simply matching that with my right arm. So let's say you are right arm dominant. You can normally get 10 reps with 50 pounds. Well, if you start with your left arm and you're only able to hit it for 9, you just want to match that with your right arm. And that's just going to facilitate more symmetrical hypertrophy. And over time, what you'll find is that each side will tend to balance out. Eccentric, concentric, eccentric, concentric. I'm getting really low in that stretched position, and that's where hypertrophy is going to be optimized. And you can see I'm supersetting with an overhead triceps extension. Now, to be fair, you could perform this in a unilateral fashion as well. For reasons of flexibility and getting my elbows out in front of my torso, I find that it's more effective if I perform them this way together, but you can ultimately experiment and see what feels best for you. You can see I'm getting my elbow nice and low on the preacher here. And I'm actually lifting quite a bit less than I have historically. And that's because I was finding that my range of motion was getting compromised. You know, there I was curling 60 pounds, but I wasn't getting as deep into the stretched position. And so ultimately it was a moot point. The 60 pounds was in a sense illusory because I wasn't getting the same degree of brachialis activation that I'm going for. So this is just a different perspective for you. Tried to film a few different angles just to give you a more comprehensive idea of what the form entails here. And for all of these sets, I'm training to failure without actually failing. If I don't think I can hit another rep, I'm not going to go for it, but I'm also not going to leave more than 1 or 2 reps tops in the tank.
So what I'm doing right now is I just have the Google Keep app open, and what I like to do is just keep track of my performance on the first set. So my first superset here is I'm doing some preacher curls unilateral.
So what I'm gonna do real quick is I'll just put my cursor over the synopsis here of what we've got. And you can see, for example, like with the seated preachers, just this case in point, 22.5 times 9 times 5. This is just a really condensed, consolidated way to summarize my workout. And basically the top set of each of these 8 exercises, I will record in terms of the weight, the resistance in kilograms. So 22.5 times 9. The 9 just indicates that I hit 9 reps on my first set, my top set. And then the third number is the number of sets that I'm performing. And of course, I'm not going to be able to match my top set performance on each of those, but tracking sets is the best way to gauge volume, and volume is the #1 driver of hypertrophy.
As well as overhead triceps extensions, and I'm basically just updating my performance on the first set of each of these.
A little bit of posing here. Don't hate, don't hate. I can remember my first time in the gym in Augusta, Maine at the Planet Fitness there. Some guy was like getting a massive bicep pump. I was thinking to myself, what a douche, what a douche. This is really weird timing. I don't know if this happened unconsciously, but listen to the music. Which is kind of weird. So what I'm hitting here is a money exercise. So this is going to be an incline side lateral. One of the most important aspects of rendering an aesthetic physique is keeping your midsection really small, right? You've probably heard of the golden ratio, the 1.618 upper to lower torso ratio. And a lot of that is contingent, quite frankly, on having a small waistline, right? I mean, you can only get boulder shoulders to a certain extent. You can only build so much muscle. But if you can keep a nice, narrow, slim waistline, what's going to happen is you're dividing by a smaller number, and that's going to increase that upper to lower torso ratio. And one of the ways to do that is just with very intelligently, deliberately chosen exercises, the incline side lateral, not the least of which, because it's going to stabilize your torso and negate the recruitment of the obliques. And so that's just going to minimize any abdominal activation, to the greatest extent possible. Obviously, your core is going to naturally contract to a certain extent, but this is as good of an isolation exercise as it gets for the side delts. And the side delt is going to be the most important muscle, if I had to choose one in terms of masculine aesthetics. So what you can see here is in a unilateral fashion, I'm going to be starting with my non-dominant side, as I would recommend, and then I will match the number of reps that I get with that side with my dominant side, and I would recommend that as well. So nothing fancy here, just as always, keeping a good tempo, lifting the weight in a controlled fashion, just showing you the different side here, lifting with my right arm. So that's the concentric, eccentric, concentric, eccentric, concentric. You get the idea.
So what I'm doing right now is I've just got the Google Keep app open, and I've just got a list of all of the exercises that I'm performing today on arm day. I'm also training my side delts. And what I like to do is track my performance on the first set of each lift. So I just did some side laterals. And what I'm going to do right now is take the 15 kilograms. You can see I've got it written down in terms of weight times reps, and the reps are specific to the first set, just the best way to gauge progress, times how many actual sets that I'm doing. So you can see last workout I did 15 kilograms for 9 reps on my first set for a total of 6 sets. And what I did here is I just hit that for 10 reps. So I'm just going to get that updated, and this is just a really good way to keep tabs on your strength gains.
So just showing a couple different angles here again, just to give you a more comprehensive 360 perspective. Just matching the reps with my left arm, with my right arm. That's eccentric, concentric. Lifting 15 kg here, which is actually really heavy for me. I really recommend starting low and going slow on these. You don't need a lot of weight if you're not recruiting your abs. If you're really isolating the side delts, a little weight goes a long way. Just really focus on the side delt activation here. This exercise is brutal, and this is money. You will not see anybody performing that exercise, and that is honestly the greatest way to augment the aesthetics of your physique. If you want really well-developed boulder shoulders, that is the exercise that you need. Forget about this overhead pressing, military presses. I would honestly double, triple down on the volume that you allocate to these side laterals. Absolute game changer.
Up right now for my second superset. So what we're going to be doing here are cable hammer curls, and I'm going to be supersetting that with a triceps press down, and that's going to be unilateral. I'm going to be doing one side at a time, and let's get rocking.
Yeah, so when I first got to the gym, actually the machine that I need right here, the cable machine, was actually preoccupied. All three of them were. So that's actually why I started with the preacher curls and the overhead triceps extensions. Ultimately, you can mix and match these, but what I would recommend doing is placing the side laterals in between each of the supersets, and that's just going to maximize the recovery of your biceps and your triceps before you blast them again with this pairing here. So this exercise is absolute money as well. This is going to be a hammer curl, and notice that I'm training this in the stretched, in the lengthened position. That is the greatest single hypertrophy hack that I could possibly give you. Just notice the angle of my torso here, and notice how I'm maintaining that throughout the set. And I've got a couple different other angles to show you as well here. So supersetting that with a triceps press down in a unilateral fashion. Again, in this case, I'm starting with my weaker side, which just happens to be my right arm for this exercise. You'll notice that sometimes your left arm might actually be stronger than the right, counterintuitively, and vice versa. So notice the torso angle, right? So I'm trying to lean forward so that when I get into the stretch position right there at the end of the eccentric, so that's eccentric. Yeah, so that's just helping get into more of that stretch position, and you may not be able to lift as much, but you'll get better growth, absolutely. So that's concentric, eccentric, concentric, eccentric. Again, notice that forward tilt, the torso leaned over. And again, just starting with my right arm here, which just happens to be a little bit weaker than my left on this particular exercise. You'll have to sort of empirically elucidate that for yourself. I was gonna say too, just feel free to make note of that. Like if you're using Google Keep or whatever note-taking app you happen to use, I think it's always useful to, especially if you're new to the gym or just new to a particular facility, right? I recently relocated to Australia, so this gym, when I first got there, was completely foreign to me. So I was writing down, like which pin I'm using on the bench, on the incline for my side laterals, for my neck curls, for my pec flies. I was writing down just the ergonomic information that I needed for the sake of consistency.
Comfortable in my own skin, and that's my greatest wish for you. If I had a magic wand and I could give you but one thing, that's what I would give you. But in spite of the fact that I don't have that wand, what I would give you is a map, and I hope that's what you find this content to be. A map to the promised land, man. Like to get on the other side of struggle and to experience serenity. And I just hope you find inspiration in this, and the fact that you can do it. You can stay on the straight and narrow. You can find your freedom. Yeah, you can build a better physique. You can get the 16-inch arm, the 25-inch thunder thighs, right? But more than anything, I want you to feel at ease with yourself. And I want you to feel comfortable in your own skin as you navigate life, so that other people, and more importantly you, get to experience the best of yourself, the best that is yet to come. I love you so much, and I hope you enjoy what's to come.
Yeah, so I think you're able to gain an appreciation of just how loud they outright blast the music here. There's frankly no shortage of speakers. And again, just to reiterate and emphasize the importance of the beige 33 and our earplugs here that I'm wearing, again, that's just to help me get more present to the moment and actually in touch with my body. I don't want to drown that out. I want to be as present as possible during these workouts. And what I'm showing you here is just another angle of the hammer curls, which I'm performing with cables. Feel free to use dumbbells for these. There are seemingly ad infinitum permutations of potential exercises that you could perform that would substitute for these just based on what feels good to you. For example, you could set up an incline bench and you could perform these at an incline on each side, one at a time with dumbbells. You could perform these with cables like you see me doing here. Quite frankly, a lot of this is just going to be dictated by the fitness facility that you frequent and the equipment availability therein. Eccentric, going for the concentric here, there we go. Different angle here for you on the press downs. You could perform these with a rope as well, or one of the V bars. Unilateral work is great though, by the way, for promoting symmetrical balanced hypertrophy whenever you have the chance. So what I like to do is finish up my arm days by supersetting two of the most sexually dimorphic masculine muscles, and that would include the neck and the forearms. And so what I often find is that the forearms, when I'm training wrist extensions, the bottleneck, quite frankly, is not my forearms, but rather my grip strength. And that's why you'll see me starting off with them here, as opposed to supersetting them with wrist curls, which you could certainly do. I just don't want my forearms to not be the bottleneck, if that makes sense. One of the telltale signs of an optimized for hypertrophy exercise is that the exhaustion of the muscle that the exercise targets is the restraint, is the bottleneck. I don't want my grip to be giving out before my forearms, and that's why you'll see here I'm supersetting wrist extensions with neck curls, and then what I'll be doing is just straight setting my wrist curls at the very end. You could perform those, by the way, in a unilateral fashion as well, just one arm at a time. Feel free to experiment around and see what gives you the greatest activation of the forearms and just stay consistent from there. Adopt the form that maximizes the recruitment of the targeted muscles and then get as brutally strong from that point as you can. What you can see here is that I'm supersetting with neck curls, and I've got my phone out just for the first set. I think you'll be able to see on the screen recording, hopefully, that I'm on airplane mode. That's one thing that I like to do during my workouts. Airplane mode and do not disturb. No nonsense. What I'm doing here is tracking the duration of my isometric hold for the first set. Once I get north of 30 seconds, then I'll be able to increase by the smallest increment possible, which is about 2.5 pounds. Yeah, so I don't see the airplane mode, but rest assured, we're on airplane mode. No nonsense, no distractions here. You'll see a bit of a time lapse. We're at 7 seconds, now 35, 36. And that's when I'm supporting myself. Be very, very careful. This is a very dangerous exercise. Just be very careful with the neck. Have your hands ready to brace yourself. And what I did there, by the way, is after alleviating my neck and just using my forearms, using my grip to hold the weight, I count out 10 seconds in my head. And then once I come up on 9, 10, that's when I'm stopping the time. And then I'm just going to be subtracting 10 seconds from that. So in this case, my working set would have been 36.43 seconds. And since that's north of 30, I'll just be increasing my weight during the next workout. Supersetting back to the wrist extensions here, just trying to get a good pump. How many people do you see honestly training forearms vigorously? This is a very incredibly sexually dimorphic muscle and is really going to increase your sex appeal. So I'm supersetting back, training in a stretched position. Notice the incline on the bench, and I'm training the neck in a stretched position. Very, very important. Just a different angle here for you, more of an aerial shot, just to show you the forearm pump we got going on. And again, I don't want my grip to be giving out, so I'm going to be saving my wrist rolls for the end, which has the palms facing up. And when the palms are facing up, my grip isn't going to tend to give out. You'll find that's also the case for you. So I believe this is my last set here of the neck curl. And then now we're moving on to the straight sets at the very end of the wrist rolls. I like to kind of butt the ends together, and I find that just gives a little bit more stability and just offers a better feel. Feel free to experiment around. Again, you could do these in a unilateral fashion as well, but I consider this to be unilateral because I've got separate dumbbells, they're in separate hands, and this is going to promote very symmetrical growth between the arms. I believe this is my last set here, so I did 3 sets of these, of the wrist extensions, 3 sets of the neck curls as well. Just going to failure here, really blasting the forearms. I think I just said that's brutal. So that wraps the workout, my friend. That is an arm day. My arms now are just north of 16 inches, but as I mentioned earlier, like this whole journey is not about merely improving your aesthetics. It's really about how you feel internally. I know that sounds so cliche, but as someone who's been at this for over a decade, I can tell you that the greatest gift that I've been given by staying on the straight and narrow on this path, on this journey, is just being at ease with myself, being able to walk into this gym and make good eye contact with people, like have a genuine smile and just have this masculine frame that I'm so grateful for. And that's exactly what I want for you as well. And if you're interested in this content and you want to learn more about the A to Z transformation that I went through, how I fixed my physiology, how I optimized my endocrinology, my testosterone levels, how I built a better physique, how I went from this to this, then check out alphaactualization.com. I'll pull up the web browser right now just to walk you through this. Alphaactualization.com. And there's a recent article post that would very greatly dovetail with the video that we just watched together. And it's called Resistance Training Guidelines for Health and Aesthetics. And this content here that I'm scrolling through, what this is going to help you do is establish a framework for how you could ultimately curate a routine based on the fitness facility that you go to and ultimately optimize your physique based on the training equipment available to you. Bodybuilding is something that has completely changed my life in every way imaginable, and it really serves as a great microcosm for the entirety of your self-actualization journey. I want this to be a launching pad. I want you to optimize your physiology to get the aesthetic physique, but to see this as a very high leverage play. Very high leverage in the sense that you want it to accentuate all other areas of your life, being high testosterone, having more vitality, more energy to just get more juice out of the squeeze of this life. I love you very much, my friend. Drop a comment down below, like and subscribe for more content like this. Check out alphaactualization.com. And until next time, find your freedom. Peace.